Hi everybody, my name is Randy Kraus. I'm the Assistant Chief of Health Services for Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District. With me today I have Firefighter DeClerc, Firefighter Martinez, and Firefighter DeCastro. One of the things we'd like to talk to you about is during these trying times, while everybody is doing demolition or rehab on their home throughout our community after the devastation of Hurricane Ian, we'd like to talk to you about bleeding control. That seems to be most of the injuries that we're seeing lately. So one of the things we'd like to talk to you first about is pre-planning. Whenever you get into construction, rehabilitation, demolition, whatever it is you may be doing on your home or property, it may be wise for you to have yourself a first aid kit ready and available because of the fact that injuries are accidents and accidents do happen. So some of the things that we may recommend are some gauze or 4x4, some cling, which could help wrap, or ace bandage, which would be helpful. We'd also recommend some ice packs, and for extreme circumstances you can go out and get a commercially made tourniquet when we have an extreme situation of maybe an injury with power tools or something like that. So very quickly, the one thing we like to talk about, that if you do get a cut and you're with somebody, so I have Firefighter DeClerc here with me and I could help her. If you're by yourself, the biggest thing you have to remember is with a cut, compression is your friend. So you want to immediately cover. If it's on yourself, immediately cover that cut or that wound and decide whether or not you need to call somebody to help you to dress it appropriately, or if you need us, call 911 if it's bad enough. But the first thing you want to do with a cut is you want to go ahead and you want to immediately compress the site. And with compression, it helps close the wound. One of the other things you could do is try to make the gauze as small as possible just to cover the wound, because you could see the thickness that it added. So by doing that, this is applying a lot more pressure. So if the bleeding happens to keep on coming through, you don't want to take this off because we're already starting the clotting process. What you'd want to do is add more gauze to it. And it's as simple as that. Then you'd want to take your cling, and we could even show you a neat little EMS trick here. And you'll want to wrap the wound. And as you come back up over it, you could twist, because pressure and compression is our friend, and come over that wound site. And then you could wrap, twist again, compress it a little more. We want pressure on that wound to help the clotting process. After you wrap it, here's the last final little trick. When you get down to the end, you could hold it here, reverse, come up, and tie your wound, because now you're putting a knot right on top of that cut. Okay? If it's ever extreme where you believe that it was so deep or it's a partial amputation, if you have a commercial tourniquet device, you could place that on, and you always want to go above where the cut or that amputation may be, and you pull it as tight as you can. When you pull it, you don't want to totally cut off feeling for the person. You want to make sure that you have a pulse to the extremity, but you would use the commercial device and follow the instructions, and then you would take this, twist it, and you would secure it here. Couple things to remember. If you ever do apply a tourniquet on yourself or somebody else, never take it off. Okay, let them do that at the hospital. The other thing you want to make sure you do is note the time somewhere. So on commercial devices, you could see there's a little place here to write, and that's where you'd write the time that you applied the tourniquet. Okay? So one of the other things that we want to remember about cuts and bleeding, if the blood's coming out strong and it's squirting and it's bright red, that's probably an arterial bleed, and that's something that's absolutely going to need you to get to a hospital or call 911 so we can get you there safely. Okay? If it sputters out and has a little bit more darkish color, you know that it's probably not an artery, but you still may need us. So if you ever feel you need 911, please don't ever hesitate to call us. Ice is always a good thing to put on top. Afterwards, it'll also help. So with that, this is if you were able to have a pre-plan and have your own first aid kit. We're going to have firefighter Martinez show you how you can improvise a tourniquet in those bad situations.
So say you get a first aid kit and then you get a major injury and you realize, oh, my first aid kit didn't come with a commercial grade tourniquet. There's a couple of household items that you could use. Just like a regular cloth like this, if you could tie a bandana together, just to tie it. So we're gonna, Firefighter Castro is gonna help me, and say he has an injury right here that's arterial bleeding and it's shooting out. We're gonna wanna go ahead, first try to use direct pressure as you saw and wrapping it. Next thing is you're gonna wrap this, tie a small knot on top. You want to make sure you're going above the injury. You can grab a ruler, a strong pen, a screwdriver, anything that's strong enough that you could put right here. You're going to tie another knot in between it. And then once that's tied, you want to go ahead and twist this to the point where the bleeding stops. And once you get to the bleeding stops, you still make sure they still have a pulse there. You're going to wrap this side around here. You're going to tie it this side just so it doesn't untwist. We're going to go the other side, tie this part right here. And then it's going to keep it in place, and same thing, you're going to want to go ahead and write the time somewhere, so either on their arm or anywhere that you can see it, write a note, stick it to them, that could work.
And don't forget too, you could always sit there and use your belt. And that would just be common sense to wrap your belt around it, pull it through the buckle, and try to secure it the best that you can. So we hope this was useful for our community members that are out there working their way of building back stronger through these terrible times after Ian. And please be safe, please be careful, pre-plan what you're doing, make sure you have some resources available for you in case an accident does happen. And please, please, please don't ever hesitate to call 911 and have Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District come and help you or your family.